Pope John Paul II, a transformational leader of the Catholic Church and world affairs. Pope John Paul II, born Karol Józef Wojtyła on May 18, 1920, in Wadowice, Poland, is widely recognized as one of the most influential popes in modern history. His papacy, from 1978 until his death in 2005, spanned 27 years, making him one of the longest-serving popes, third only to Pius IX and St. Peter. John Paul II's leadership left a profound impact not only on the Catholic Church, but also on global geopolitics, interfaith relations, and the moral and cultural direction of society. Early life and background. Wojtyła's early life was marked by a series of personal tragedies and challenges. His mother passed away when he was 8 years old, followed by the death of his brother, a physician from scarlet fever. His father, a former army officer, died in 1941, leaving Wojtyła an orphan at the age of 21. These early experiences of loss and hardship shaped his sense of resilience, compassion, and spiritual depth. During World War II, Wojtyła evaded forced labor under the Nazi occupation of Poland by working in a quarry and later in a chemical factory. Amidst this, he pursued a passion for acting and theater, before turning to theology, driven by a spiritual encounter with the Archbishop of Krakow, Adam Stefan Sapieha. Wojtyła entered the clandestine seminary during the Nazi occupation, solidifying his commitment to becoming a priest. After the war, Wojtyła continued his theological studies, eventually rising through the church's ranks to become the Archbishop of Krakow in 1964 and a cardinal in 1967. His background as a philosopher, poet, and linguist contributed to his intellectual and spiritual appeal, attributes that would define his papacy. Election and papacy. Wojtyła was elected as pope on October 16, 1978, following the sudden death of Pope John Paul I after only 33 days in office. As the first non-Italian pope in over 400 years, his election was a momentous occasion, signaling a shift towards a more global church. His papal name, John Paul II, honored his predecessor and underscored a sense of continuity during a period of change. John Paul II's pontificate was characterized by his focus on evangelization, global outreach, and moral leadership. He was a staunch advocate of human dignity, a promoter of the family, and a critic of materialism, consumerism, and secularization. His teachings reaffirmed the Catholic Church's positions on issues such as abortion, contraception, and the role of women in the priesthood, which reflected his conservative stance on doctrinal matters. Political influence and role in the fall of communism. John Paul II played a significant role in the geopolitical landscape of the late 20th century, particularly in his native Poland and the wider Eastern Bloc. His visit to Poland in 1979 is widely regarded as a turning point in the struggle against communist rule, as it inspired the rise of the Solidarity movement, a trade union that became a catalyst for political change. His message of "Be not afraid" resonated with millions, providing moral support to those resisting the oppressive communist regimes. John Paul II's soft power diplomacy, combined with his public support for human rights and religious freedom, contributed to the eventual collapse of communist regimes across Eastern Europe. His influence was so profound that figures like Lech Walesa and Mikhail Gorbachev credited him with playing a pivotal role in the peaceful revolutions that swept the region in the late 1980s. Ecumenism and interfaith relations. A key feature of John Paul II's papacy was his commitment to fostering dialogue between different religious communities. He made historic efforts to improve the Church's relationship with Judaism, Islam, and the Eastern Orthodox Church. He was the first pope to visit a synagogue in Rome and a mosque in Damascus, signaling a new era of Catholic engagement with other faith traditions. John Paul II also sought reconciliation for past wrongdoings by the Catholic Church, including the persecution of Jews during the Holocaust. His 2000 visit to the Western Wall in Jerusalem, where he prayed for forgiveness for the Church's past sins against the Jewish people, was a landmark moment in Catholic-Jewish relations. Legacy. John Paul II left an indelible mark on the world. His extensive travels, visiting 129 countries, made him one of the most visible and widely recognized leaders in history. His emphasis on the universal call to holiness, family values, and the dignity of every human being resonated with millions. He canonized more saints than all his predecessors combined and implemented major reforms in the Church's legal and catechetical systems. Despite his achievements, John Paul II's legacy is not without controversy. His handling of the sexual abuse crisis within the Catholic Church has been a focal point of criticism, with accusations that he failed to act decisively enough to address the systemic problems that plagued the Church during his pontificate. Nevertheless, John Paul II remains an iconic figure, canonized in 2014 alongside Pope John XXIII. His papacy shaped the Church's direction into the 21st century, and established him as one of the most influential religious and political figures of modern times.